Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
I'm...
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Convention Chronicles. This is the show where we discuss some of the experience we have had at comic book conventions, also known as Comic Cons, throughout the course of our lives so far. I am your host, Ryan of Nerd Culture, and my co-host and very good friend is here with us. Please welcome Jeff back. Jeff, it's good to see you, my good man. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you? More importantly, how are you doing?
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here. Now, thank you. How are you? We're signing the squad in. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is what you have to say about our discussion here about Comic Cons. If you have any questions about anything we're going to be talking about on this episode, whether you're joining this live or on the replay, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Don't forget to like and share this video with all of your closest friends. On this episode of Convention Chronicles, specifically, we're going to be talking about the importance of vendors and some of the vendors we have come across throughout the course of our Comic-Con careers. So, Jeff, I'm going to turn things over to you for just a minute, or maybe 600, because you tend to write dissertations that are 600 pages long. So, the first question I have for you is, how important are vendors when it comes to having them at conventions?
It's vendors are the backbone of conventions. As you know, Ryan, every convention we go to, there's one specific giant piece of the floor plan dedicated to vendors. Vending space, vending booths can cost anywhere from like $50 to a lower end convention. Let's say like Ocean City, Maryland, Comic-Con, all the way up to $1,000 or more for New York Comic-Con. And that's just for one 10 by 10 space. It can be extremely lucrative if you have a double or triple size booth. And I do know some vendors who do have a setup like that. I know that, the conventions really, I don't think could survive without vendors. A lot of times convention organizers specifically look for their vendors right away, because they can use that money then to spend on celebrity guests and comic book guests, and then give them booths and set them up. And really, that's the drive of comic conventions, really seeing all the different booths for prints, art, collectibles, basically, and obviously comic book dealers as well. So I think you can't have a convention without vendors, because that's kind of where the preliminary money comes in, before the tickets are sold, before the general admission people come in, before VIPs, before anything. Vendors are the ones getting it off the ground, really. And in fact, a lot of conventions have VIP hour where they open up early just for VIPs to get in and shop with the vendors first before they even go anywhere else in the convention. So, they are really the backbone of Comic-Con, really. And there's no way a convention could get off the ground without an extensive list of vendors. So it's a big network. So that's my short dissertation. Yes, I was a history major in college, so I do tend to have an extensive response time. So
yeah, you have a lot of words.
I do.
Spit out. You're a wordsmith. You're just one of those
I
dudes.
love being a wordsmith.
It's
Do you know
okay.
how much? Do you know how much fun it is to have such an extensive vocabulary and then answer like the best is like, because I'm a teacher, you can use your extensive vocabulary as a teacher and they look at you like,
huh? Like, what
fun.
planet are you from? But
That's
no,
right.
listen, it's all good, man. Use the skills to your advantage. I will definitely agree with you there. So for me, my interpretation of vendors is that when I started going to conventions, granted, the first thing that was on my mind, I wanted to make the first convention I ever went to. I wanted to make sure I wasn't late to get to the Q&A panel of the late great Margot Kidder, who portrayed Lois Lane for a number of years. She was the first celebrity I ever met. She was great. But walking around, I noticed all these different people selling different items, whether it was pieces of artwork, whether it was bookmarks, whether it was books, whether it was glasses that have been carved with designs in them, and shot glasses, that kind of deal. So there were all kinds of different people that had booths in and around the convention center where I was at least, in the beginning, I was starting to explore it a little bit. And then when I started going to some of the bigger conventions, whether it was Lexington Comic and Toy Convention in Lexington, Kentucky, how you guys doing? Hope everything's well. Or going to places like Awesome Con and Galaxy Con, where there are just huge amounts of tables and these chairs and this artwork and this, they even had tattoo artists at these things now. It's crazy. Yep. So I was walking around and getting to know some of these individuals, which we'll talk more about here in a minute. But yeah, for me, vendors are, to me, they can be more fascinating than just meeting an actor or actress from your childhood. Because now, granted, some people go to Comic Cons to meet certain celebrity guests, and that's fine. Listen, whatever your reasons are, I respect that. Yeah, you too. Don't worry. We're all guilty here. We're all guilty. We're guilty as charged, okay? But outside of meeting the celebrity guests, when you go to Exhibitors Row and Artist Alley, all those places, the things that you buy from those vendors, whether it's a piece of artwork, whether it's one of their books, whether it's one of their prints, whether it's a shot glass that they carved a design into, or they painted something that struck their imagination. I mean, people have painted things on skateboard decks. You can like make pieces of art on skateboard decks. Okay. So when I see things like this, the vendors to me are important because they enhance your love and passion for certain fandoms, or a piece of a fandom, or a video game, for instance. There are people at conventions that sell comic books, or comic book vendors, right? There's also video game vendors. There are people who sell like old school Game Boys, Game Boys, okay? Before we had the interwebs and that little magical thing known as, the PlayStation World and Xbox One, we had to like touch things with our hands and play video games we had video games at our fingertips. Yeah. We had those Tiger handheld video games. Okay. So when I see individuals who are selling these particular items, or they're independent artists selling a piece of their artwork, I'm thinking this brings back nostalgia. It's a positive feeling. And that's one of the best things about visiting and meeting with vendors of all different kinds, whether they're doing artwork, whether they're selling a book, or they're promoting an upcoming issue of their comic book series, because there's a lot of indie comics out there, which, by the way, indie supports indie. I just want to point that out. So that, to me, vendors are extremely important because they make you love they enhance the experience. They make it so much better than what it is. Yeah. So my hat's off to all the vendors out there, every single one of them. So that's what I feel is important when it comes to having a section or an area of your convention center dedicated to tables that have vendors tabling at those events. So, and by the way, if you have a question or a particular vendor that you wish to share with us in the comments or the chat, whether you're joining this live on the replay, please do. By all means, we want to hear about as many individuals who have been vendors at conventions as humanly possible. Gee, that's a big word. So big words, guys. So my next question, and we're going to turn things over to the history graduate here because he knows way too much, way too much. In the words of our good friend Biff Tannen, you know your history. Very good. So, Jeff, in your experience, who are some of the vendors that you have taken a chance on and met? And also, have you made friends with any particular vendors over the years that you've been going to conventions?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, man. Like, we'll let's just kind of start out. Basically, I would say that one of the first vendors I really got to know is the owner of Awesome Minis. His name is Joe Gree. He's been he and I have become very close friends, and over the years we've really helped each other out. He's you think I'm a wealth of knowledge. He's much more of a knowledge and resource to all the things that are Comic-Con and comic related is really what I've learned from him. I remember early on that I was in these Facebook groups for what we call con helpers, basically consignment services, different people offering to help other people get autographs at conventions that they're not going to. It's basically what I do. And I remember I wanted to go to Heroes and Villains. I was on the fence about doing it, and my friend Joe reached out and he said, "Hey man, I'm going, and if you don't want to go, just give me the thing that you want to get signed and I'll get it signed for you." And next thing I know, it was a custom street sign made for Arrow, the TV show. And I got the street sign from a vendor while in Harrisburg, maybe a couple weeks before, and I wanted to add to it. So Joe ended up getting me like 16 more autographs to go onto it at that show alone, and it was pretty cool. So the next thing I know, Joe was kind of teaching me about Funko Pops, the value in Funko Pops, the rarity of Funko Pops, stuff like that. And then Joe is actually the guy who gave me the idea of taking my old comics that I had and investing in them. So unfortunately, we live in a time where alternative investments is a big thing now, and one of which was you can take your comics and you can turn them into a little side investment. So on a rainy day, if something were to come up, then you have something that you can sell, or whatever the case may be, and you can supplement your income and that sort of thing. So Joe was the one who taught me. I mean, I had already had a kind of a little bit of a knowledge on what CGC was and what CGC did, but I didn't really know much about CGC signature series and grading and stuff like that. So he's the one who taught me how to kind of put value into my comics, even though I own some pretty decent books from Silver and Copper Age, but Joe's really the one who taught me how to kind of, it's almost like it's a little bit of gambling, it's a little bit of investment. So basically I'll take like 5 to 10 books to a bigger convention, let's say New York Comic Con or Baltimore, and I'll get them signed by each of the writer, the cover artist, the artist, along those lines. And I'll get them CGC witnessed, and then I drop off my books, fill out my paperwork, and wait a month to 2 months to see, what grades I get. So the gamble comes into play, where you're like, come on, big bucks, no whammies, give me a high grade, type deal. So that's been kind of something I took away from Joe. I've helped out behind his booth. I've helped him kind of behind the scenes, setting up, breaking down. So Joe and I have been really good friends, and the crew he has is always top notch. They're always working really hard for him. And Awesome Minis now has gotten so big that their booth at New York Comic Con, I believe, was a double. I think it was a double this year. And I'm telling you, every time I walk by that booth, or every time I drop something off, because Joe asked me to pick up some exclusives for him from other booths, I mean, they're slammed with people, like 3 people deep in the middle of the aisle at New York Comic Con. It's one of the more popular booths in the vendor hall at New York, and basically he just sells minifigs, and they have every single person, character, genre that you can think of. They usually have 5 of each character built, laid out on their boards, and I mean they're just boards clear across the tables, and you just walk up. It's $5 for one mini, and it's what is it, 5 for 20, 5 for 20. And they just sit there and sell, and people just love them. It's amazing. They have everything. You can get all 4 turtles and Splinter for $20, and Joe advertises them as if these are the figures you play with and not collect, because they're not Legos, but they resemble Legos. So I think most people who are probably watching this are familiar with at least the product, if not my friend's booth, because he is just everywhere up and down the East Coast. So, and I think he's even expanded out to Denver. And I think he's going to try and expand down to Florida at this point. So he's really, he'll definitely be at Rhode Island Comic Con. I know that he'll be there next weekend. So, I mean, he's just everywhere, and it's amazing. It's amazing how much he's grown. So, yeah. So shout out to Joe Gree.
Right on, man. Right on. And thanks for sharing that with us. I do greatly appreciate it. Once again, this is Convention Chronicles here at Nerd Culture Channel. We're discussing some of the vendors we've had a chance to meet and come across at times during our Comic-Con careers. If you have any thoughts about it, any questions about anything, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. If you're joining us live or on the replay, thank you for being here. And do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. With that being said, so I've been going to conventions for a while. Long time, a very long time. And I have had the very good fortune of exploring more of Exhibitor and Vendors Alley and meeting different people from different things that they're into, whether it's film, whether it's television, whether it's anime, it's manga, it's comic books, it's indie comics, whatever it may be. And one of the first people that I remember meeting at conventions and actually becoming good friends with, and this is going back a number of years now, is Brian C. Roll of OdysseyArt.net. That's who I want to talk about here. So this is Brian, myself, and his lovely wife Katie, and this was taken at, I believe it was the Great Philadelphia Comic Con when that was still a thing some years ago. And he does digital artwork. So as you can see, we're at his booth. This is his booth right here. This is his setup. And let me tell you, he is a master of his craft. He is so good at what he does. And I'm proud to say that after I first met him and bought some of his prints, we became friends almost instantly. And I got the chance to meet his wife some years later, as where this photo was taken. And I mean, look at all that artwork. I mean, he's got something for everybody, whether it's DC, whether it's Marvel, whether it's Star Wars. I mean, you can't see the Star Wars stuff because right now it's all the Marvel and DC, which is fine. But on that portfolio down there on the bottom left-hand part of your screen, there's a print of Rey and Kylo Ren going at it in the snow from Episode 7, The Force Awakens, which, by the way, is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Hashtag that will get the comments section talking. So Brian and his wife, they're great people, 2 of the nicest people I've come across, and you got to check out his artwork. I mean, his artwork is just it's so unique. It's so unique. It's so good. He's got panoramas, prints of the cast of TV shows that you can see there in that image. He's got all the characters from The Flash. He's got on one side, he's got all the characters from Daredevil, the Marvel Netflix, now Disney Plus series on your right, if you look at the photo there. So Brian and Katie, you guys are awesome. I support you 100%. Wish you nothing but the best moving forward. So definitely make sure you're following any and all these individuals. Definitely make sure you're following them on social media. You can find Brian at Brian C. Roll, Odyssey Art. and Odyssey Art on Instagram, all that stuff. We're gonna put the links to people's websites and things like that in the comment section of this episode. So be sure to check the comment section is what I'm saying. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Make a note of this. So, but yeah, his artwork is really unique. Were you gonna say something, Jeff? I'm sorry.
No. I don't think I've gotten to see Brian's booth just yet, but that's a pretty cool setup he had at in Greater Philadelphia. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing what you can fit in a 10 by 10 space, right?
Yeah. And then also, as we're going down a little place called Memory Lane, you think that was just the tip of the iceberg, Jeff? I got more. You want to see more? I'll show you more. So, good friends of mine, Terry and Leah Huddleston, right here. Terry Huddleston is the artist. Terry Huddleston Art. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Jeff.
I've met Terry.
Oh, you've met Terry, the big guy?
I have.
Cool. So you can't really see it, but in our image here, this one was taken, I believe it was taken at Lexington Comic and Toy Convention, Lexington, Kentucky. That's right, because I'm wearing a Time Force shirt, and you can see my lanyard. It says Lexington all over it. So, hello, big identifier. And once again, Terry does, I believe it's digital artwork. You can see some of his work in the left-hand part of your screen in that photo, and partially the right-hand part of your screen. So he's a cool guy. He is very enthusiastic. Whoever comes to his booth, whoever it is, whether you're meeting him for the first time or you're seeing him again for the 30th time in your life, he is so enthusiastic. Doesn't matter how old him and this guy, his family gets. They're some of the most enthusiastic people you're ever going to see at a convention. So that's why they're smiling so big in that photo. So make sure to look up Terry Huddleston Art. He's a really good guy. He's cool. He's good people. His wife, Leah, I'm sorry if it's Leah, I can't. For the life of me, I keep forgetting how to pronounce your name. I'm so sorry. Even though I've known you for years. Sorry. But these are good peoples. So yeah.
So
I didn't. You've met Terry, right? Have you bought?
I did. This was at New York Comic Con a few years ago.
Of course it was. Everything with you is New York Comic Con.
Todd McFarlane was in the house, and he was doing a free signing. So if you got over to him and got a wristband, you could get in line and get a free Todd signature. That happened to be the same year that oh my God, how can I forget his name? John Leguizamo. He was there too. So I was like, oh man, it would be really cool to get something with Spawn on it and have a dual signed, item with both McFarlane and John Leguizamo. So I actually ended up getting a Terry Huddleston print, and I got into Todd's line. He personalized it to me. He said, "Jeff, you're one hell of a guy." And then I got Leguizamo to put "Go Spawny," and I have it framed. It was in my apartment at Penn State last year. So excuse me, yeah. But Terry, I haven't seen him in a little while. But yeah, he had a great booth of plenty of artwork, and it was so much to choose from, but really, really cool. I think I even still have the bag from that purchase, because I thought the bag was so cool. He gives you like a little sticker with his face on it. It says Terry Huddleston Art. I liked it. It was cool.
Yeah, he's good. He's good people. So definitely check him out. So before I continue on with sharing some of the interactions and vendors that I've come across in my Comic-Con career, Jeff, you want to give a shout out to another individual or another two individuals as we're going along here?
Sure.
Keep going down memory lane.
Well, let's see. So I can do my Funko dealer friends. So we can talk about Undiscovered Realm, Plastic Empire, and Toytastic. Those are three of the big heavy hitters, so to speak, Funko dealers that you'll see at most comic conventions that you go to. I know that Toytastic, the owner, Ralph, he's super, super nice guy. He's a little bit more selective in conventions that he does. He's based in New York, so you'll see him more so at like the at New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut territory. he has been out towards Philadelphia for Greater Philadelphia and Keystone Comic-Con. Ralph is a super, super nice guy. Whatever you're looking for, you can find him on Whatnot. You can find him on social media. He probably has it as far as a Funko Pop goes. His big claim is that he did there's a really nice Wolverine exclusive Funko Pop that is specifically his store exclusive. It's really rare, super, super expensive now, but that's Toy-tastic. Then there's Plastic Empire. I mean, those guys are huge at this point. They're based in Atlanta, Georgia area, and Dustin, super, super nice guy, typical Southern gentleman type person. They do a lot of signature series stuff. They're now doing the exclusive Chomps through their booth, which is a really big hit. Again, if you're looking for something on the floor and you need it and it's anything Funko, you're probably going to find it at his booth. Dustin is really nice guy, great to talk to, great resource if you want to learn more about the industry surrounding Funko Pops and signatures and stuff like that. Dustin's a great resource. And then finally are my buddies Undiscovered Realm. I've helped out at their booth a few times over the years, and Chris Wilcock, same thing. Big top, pop culture fan, big Ninja Turtle fan, music guy. These guys. The cool thing about the vendors are they share. They're fans too. They share the same fandoms we do. You can talk to them about anything. They're really, really analytical about condition of each item. They make sure that you get the best for your buck, for your purchase. His crew is, what's Band of Misfits. That's his crew is definitely a band of misfits. Kind of like the Robin Hood Men in Tights crew. Just everybody has a different personality, very quirky crew. I've been fortunate enough to be friends with those guys for a couple of years. And we have some inside jokes and stuff like that at this point. For some reason, they love taking Italian people to Olive Garden. I don't know. They've done it to me a couple of times, and now it's become like this whole thing. We celebrate my unbirthday. It's a quirky group of guys, definitely. But I mean, anytime I'm looking for a specific Funko Pop, those are the three guys I go to: Undiscovered Realm, Toy-tastic, and Undiscovered Realm, because I know if anybody's got it, they do. Because what I can do is a lot of times either I'm picking up something for myself to get signed, or I'm looking for somebody who's asking me for help to get something signed. So those will be the guys I go to. There was one other dealer who's now switched to the retail side of things and doesn't really do Funko Pop, doesn't do comic conventions, but that was Wise Guys Collectibles. They've since gone to more of the retail side of things. So their store is absolutely beautiful. If you get a chance to get out to New Jersey, I definitely highly recommend looking them up as well. I think they go by a different name now. Give me 1 second and I'll have that.
Insert Jeopardy theme here.
Yeah, sorry guys. Oh, it's True Believers, New Jersey. True Believers, New Jersey. That would be the store and it's owned by my friend Jesse Cohen. And he's got just a gigantic warehouse of everything you could possibly imagine. It's just same thing with Joe, same thing with Dustin, Ralph, and Chris. They all have their warehouses. It's almost like a bat cave of collectibles, really, each one of them. So, yeah.
Wow. That's a bat cave full of collectibles. That sounds like fun. Can I have one?
Walls.
Can I have a bat cave full of collectibles?
Yeah.
I mean, how fun would that be? Wouldn't it be cool if I could finally get my hands on some Hot Toys statues and how detailed
I'm sure they're just sitting on them. They're just all. Yeah, it's
Well, if they
crazy.
have if they have an extra Henry Cavill Man of Steel Superman laying around somewhere, I have to get my hands on one of
Well,
those.
yeah, that
Uh,
might cost you a couple of
no,
coins.
I need a
Couple
duffel
of
bag full of
coins.
cash. If anyone has one of
That's
those,
right.
just send them over to my place. We'll talk numbers later.
Please don't forget
Please
me
do,
either.
because I wouldn't mind having a
Absolutely.
Hot Toys statue. I hear they're very detailed. So,
I actually got my first Hot Toys.
did you?
I did, but it
Who was it? What's the
arrived
character? Which
damaged.
one did you get?
Peacemaker.
John Cena's Peacemaker? Or
Yeah,
am I thinking
yeah.
of somebody else?
Yep,
Okay.
John Cena's Peacemaker.
Nice.
But it showed up a little damaged, so I'm kind of
Oh,
waiting
no.
to see. Yeah,
Did
kind of a
did you
bummer.
send it back to him and say, "Hey, this is cracked. I need a fixed one."
Oh, their website's kind of weird. I had
Is it?
to send a response form,
Yeah.
upload a bunch of pictures. Then they said we'll get back to you, and
Yeah.
I looked down at it just now, and I'm like, hey, maybe I should look into what's going on with this.
You might want to write that one down. So
Yeah,
that's cool. But thank you for sharing
yeah,
that with us as far as some of the other people that you're friends with, you make connections with when it comes to vendors. We're talking about vendors on this episode of Convention Chronicles. Don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you have any thoughts about it, some of the vendors you've had a chance to meet up with and become friends with over the years, if you've been to conventions, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. If you have any questions, let us know. More than happy to take those as they come in respectively. So with that, I want to let you know some of the vendors I've had a chance, and one of the first vendors I met, I actually didn't meet this person until a couple years later in person, because I found this individual through social media. I started following them on social media and bought a few of their, a few of their prints at one point. Yeah. And then I commissioned him to put together. He used to do, I think he does this once in a blue moon. He doesn't do it so much anymore. His business has evolved a lot over the years. It's changed a lot over the years. So going back, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. This is Josh Bauer of J. Bauer Art, who is located in Florida. And I met him on social media because, I lived in Maryland. He lives in Florida. It's a giant distance. So he and I connected, and we just started talking, and we started to DM each other and talk, some of the things we like about fandom and some of the things we enjoy, whether it's the movies, the TV series, comics, that kind of deal. And then we just became friends after that. And then I actually convinced him to sign up and get a table at where this photo was taken, the one you're seeing on screen. This was taken at Lexington Comic and Toy Convention in Lexington, Kentucky, many years ago. And I convinced him, it's like, hey, you do a lot of shows in Florida and stuff like that, but why don't you come up here? Why don't you try your hand at some other shows in other states? Why don't you give other environments a chance? And he did. He got a table, he got a booth, which is where this was taken at Lexington in Lexington, Kentucky. And I commissioned him to do 2 canvases for me. You can see one of them on the bottom part of your screen there. That is Ryan Steele from VR Troopers. I commissioned him to paint 2 different 8x10 canvases. One of them is VR Troopers, and the one that you can't see because it's based under that is Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. Yeah, childhood favorites of mine, because I grew up in the greatest decade of them all, known as the 90s, for those of you keeping track of the score at home. And I said, Josh, I really like to get these as a canvas. He says, all right, well, I'll do it. I'll paint them, I'll put them together, and I'll bring them up to Lexington, and I'll meet up with you, and I'll give them to you there. I'm like, sounds good.
nice.
And we
Wow.
did, and we met up, and we took this picture together. And he is a great artist. He does acrylic paintings and he has original canvases that are available for sale on his website. He also has prints. I think they're still available, but now his business have evolved from doing canvases and 8x10 canvases. Now he has his artwork on bookmarks. You can purchase bookmarks on his website. You can also purchase tumblers that have his artwork on the tumbler. So if you need, something to put your coffee in or something to put your cold or hot beverages in, he's got plenty of tumblers available on his website, which we're going to put in the comments section below. So make sure you check out J. Bauer Art on Instagram. Follow him there. Follow him on Facebook. He's a great guy, wonderful human being. He and I are like really, really good friends. And he's actually said to me on a few occasions, like, you're one of my biggest, if not biggest supporter, because you like and share my posts, you encourage my work, all that stuff. So I just want to say thank you. So, well, Josh, if you're watching this, you're welcome. And I'm going to support you until my dying day. So keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. I have some of your bookmarks here in my collection. I have some of the canvases, obviously, I still have, and things like that. And a few prints I have in portfolios, that I have in storage. So look at look at his artwork here. He does a little bit of everything. He does Batman, he does Spider-Man, he does Power Rangers, as you can see there, the green and white Ranger, a side-by-side photo there, which is in the center left-hand part of your screen. And he also has that giant canvas there, Harley Quinn, which eventually sold. The original Harley Quinn over there sold eventually. So well done, well done. Jeff, any thoughts on Jay Bauer art?
First of all, I got to say, when you mentioned that you commissioned him pre-show, and he had them done and ready for you and met you at the show, that's pretty impressive. I have been a part of getting commissions set up for different people to be picked up at conventions, and it can be hit or miss. Artists take their time and are very diligent in their work, and sometimes the print or the custom or the commission's just not ready to be picked up. So that's impressive that he took the time to finish it before even coming up and meeting you. I've heard stories where somebody commissioned an artist and it took them almost 5 years to get back to them and get what they were looking for. So hats off to your friend for getting it done and getting it in your hands. Beautiful work, obviously. And I think the really cool thing is there's a personal touch to it. He specifically took what you were hoping for and created it. I think that's amazing. Obviously, the versatility of our artist vendors is always awesome. It's always nice to have something that you can grab and go as far as a tumbler or whatever prints. I mean, how many vendors do you see that have prints and custom art and stuff like that? That's a big part of the Comic-Con vending league, I guess, or just a big part of it in that regard as well. So I think his stuff looks beautiful. I definitely
should give him a follow.
Great. Well,
yeah, you should give him a
maybe
follow.
I will.
Maybe you should get some bookmarks that you can hand out to your family members, maybe even your students.
Sure. Yeah, my wonderful cherub students. They can have a custom bookmark.
Yeah,
that would be.
There's a bunch of them online. So take a look at Josh Bauer, Jay Bauer Art. His links are located in the comment section below of this episode of Convention Chronicles. Sure. Also, someone I've had the pleasure of meeting over the years. And by the way, Josh, I wish you all the best moving forward, brother. We love you. So I met these vendors later on in my Comic-Con career, but you know what they say, you learn something new every day and you meet somebody new every convention, and it's a beautiful thing. So this one, you know what, let's bring up this individual, because this one definitely deserves a shout out. So this is Kelly of Halcyon Designs, Signs by Kelly on Instagram. That's where you can find her. She also has a website, signsbykelly.com. I'm going to put the link in the comment section below here in just a moment. But before I get to that, now, I met Kelly at, I believe it was Shore Leave in Hunt Valley, Maryland. This was at Shore Leave.
Yep,
2 years.
That's definitely Hunt Valley right there.
Well, Jeff and I know the architecture.
I know that floor.
I know that floor. Jeff knows that flooring pattern.
I do.
You know that pattern, brother.
You know the sad thing is they're no longer going to host conventions, man. It's done.
They closed down the Delta Hotel by Marriott in Hunt Valley off Schwann Road is no longer with us. They are closing up shop. The place is closing, so they're going to have to find a new venue for not only where this picture was taken, which was Shore Leave, I believe in 2021. I want to say, was it 2021, 2022, 21 or 22? I think it was 2022 actually. Yeah, or 2021. It was one or the other.
2022. You said?
Yeah, I think it was 2022. Yeah, it was. So anyway. So my point is, they need to find a new venue for Farpoint, Shore Leave, the Mid-Atlantic Nostalgia Convention, Monster Mania.
Monster Mania is moving to the Inner Harbor, actually.
That's too bad. I'm not probably going to go then. So, yeah.
Really?
We'll talk about it off camera. But anyway, so we'll talk about it off camera. Off camera. That's a different story for another day entirely. So Kelly here of Halcyon Designs does sign art. She takes wooden signs and designs them and paints them and all this stuff. Look how beautiful those
I
signs
like the
are.
Miss Minutes.
Yeah,
That's really
man.
cool.
I mean, she does everything, anything and everything.
And the
Like every
Hellfire
fandom,
Club. Yep.
she does Stranger Things, Loki, Star
Yeah.
Trek, Starfleet. What's the TV show that was on many years? Futurama.
Oh, come on. It's still on. It came
Oh, is it?
back.
It's 30 years later, it's
on
still
Hulu,
going?
buddy.
Jeez.
They just did a
Lord.
new season. They
Man,
shelled out a lot of money for John DiMaggio.
I'm sure they did.
They
Well,
did.
he's a big fish in a big pond. But anyway,
he was the holdout. He was the holdout.
Interesting
Yeah.
backstory. So
Yeah.
she puts together signs, and I've never met someone who puts paints and draws or designs signs.
Really nice.
And I was
Yeah.
very, very entranced by it. I thought, ooh, this is unique. This is different. I'm not familiar with this. So I went over to her, I introduced myself, told her I was from a YouTube channel, gave her my business card. We exchanged business cards. She eventually became a guest on the show that I host every week called And I Quote, which, by the way, you can find the playlist for that on our YouTube channel at Nerd Culture Channel. You can check out our interview with Kelly Beckham of Halcyon Designs. It was a great show, despite a little technical mishap. But anyway, so I commissioned her to put some signs together for me. Now, they're not in this photo here, but they are on our Instagram. They're on my personal Instagram. You can follow it there. She did a sign for me that says Ryan's Fandoms, and it's symbols that represent each one of my favorite fandoms on that sign. So
how big is that sign?
It's the size of the Miss Minutes one on your far right.
Oh, I thought it was going to be much bigger than that.
No.
You've got a lot of fandoms.
I do, but I gave her the ones that were like the ones I really, really like, and she went with that. Like, because everyone has more than 2 or 3 fandoms, right? I have like probably 10, but she put 5 of them.
Are you
on
sure
there.
it's only 10?
I mean, it's probably more. But anyway, so check out Kelly Beckham at Signs by Kelly on Instagram. Look at these signs. She can do by the way, she does take commissions during certain times of the year, so please be respectful of that. She also has flasks and boxes where you can put your D20s in, because she's a big D&D fan. So she does D&D signs, she does D&D boxes, D&D flasks. Yeah, for those of you who are able to drink, please drink responsibly. So check her out. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. Honestly, she's one of my very good friends. Anytime I see her at Farpoint, she's always at Farpoint and Shore Leave, and that's when she started to branch out and go to conventions. That was one of her first conventions she ever tabled at, was Shore Leave. And I told her, I said, well, what's been your experience with Shore Leave so far? And she says to me, oh, it's been great. We're definitely coming back. Hands down. This has been like some of the biggest sales I've had since I started this.
Nice.
And I'm like, well done. Well, so it was a positive response, positive feedback from the fans and the people who attended the convention, who went to her booth, who visited her booth, who bought a sign. She actually had pieces of paper that were on her booth that said, "Sorry, we're sold out of this design."
Wow.
That's how popular she is.
Nice.
Not that this is a popularity contest by any stretch of the imagination, but when you have someone that has like not little, but like 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper that are in, that are on your booth saying, "Sorry, we're sold out of this design. Please inquire about it later," or whatever. That's a sign of good sales, good numbers. So there you go. Make sure you're following at Signs by Kelly on Instagram. She's one of my best friends. She's a very, very good person, and she's a big Star Wars fan, which makes me like her even more. So well done, Kelly.
Can't beat that. Can't beat that.
No, you cannot. So for those of you who just joined us, we are here with an episode of Convention Chronicles where we're talking about our favorite vendors and how important they are to Comic-Cons and conventions around the world. If you have any questions or comments about that, let us know, whether you're joining this live or on the replay, in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. With that out of the way, I'd like to share with you another individual I've had the pleasure of meeting at conventions, if you don't mind, Jeff.
By all means.
So this is Pat Henrik of Amorable Art, and he does watercolor.
I know his work.
You know this guy? You know this guy's work?
Yeah, he's in Rhode Island. He's in New York. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Have you visited his booth? Have you bought any of his prints?
I've kind of in passing seen. I caught his stuff. I know that he was set up across from Joe's booth at Rhode Island a couple of times in a row, so I've been able to check out his stuff and a little small talk here and there while we're setting up and breaking down stuff like that. So yeah, Nice
He's
guy.
a very
Real nice guy.
he's a very nice guy, very passionate. By the way, Eileen is here. Hello, Ryan and all. Eileen, it is so good to see you, my good friend. Let us know if you have any comments or questions about vendors and what they mean to conventions down
what
below.
a beautiful dog. Wow.
Who let the dogs out? Yeah, there
Look
you
at
go.
that beautiful husky. Holy
That's a
cow.
husky. Is that a husky? Okay.
Yeah.
What's the husky's name, Eileen? Let us know. Anyway,
Yeah, please.
so as I was saying before, Jeff was entranced by the husky, not the Yukon Huskies, but the husky.
Yeah.
That, by the way,
Could
that's
you
the only reason
blame
I know
me?
what a
Did you
husky
see that
is.
dog?
I know, but that's the only way I know what a husky is because of Yukon. So, that's the only
What,
reason
you,
I know
you
what a
don't
husky
remember Snow Dogs?
No,
With the
Well, no,
Huskies?
I do remember the movie, but does anyone really want to remember that movie? I don't care. Oh, my husky's name is Maya. My husky's name is
coming
Maya.
of age movie. It's beautiful.
Hi,
Come
Maya.
on.
Island's husky named Maya. Good to see
Maya.
you.
Well, hello, Maya.
Yeah, Maya.
Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, Pat Kenrick here does watercolor art, and let me tell you, do you know the expression that we grew up hearing as kids? Less is more. Well, in Pat's case, that is definitely true of his art because less is more.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is what he puts into his artwork is an incredibly impactful sight because whatever you see on whatever print that you're buying from his booth that Pat, Alexis, and Kim, which are his wife and family member, run together as a team collectively, I might add. His artwork is some of the most unique artwork I've had the pleasure of seeing at conventions, and he and I become good friends. Now, the print that he's holding there in this photo, this was taken at Fan Expo in Philadelphia. And yes, Jeff, you were there. And at Fan Expo in Philadelphia, Pat, I bought this print of Mickey and his friends standing in front of the castle, of Disney World. And I had the voice actor of Mickey Mouse himself, Brett Ewan, signed the print on the very top that you can see there in the center part of your screen. And I took it over to Pat and I said, Pat, look, I had Mickey Mouse sign your print. And he says, that is so cool. We got to get a picture of that. I said, absolutely, my good man. Let's do that. So we took a picture, as you can see, Pat and I, and we posted, I believe it's on his Instagram. You can find it there. But look at his artwork in the background there. Look how beautiful and centered it is. You got Star Wars. You got Winnie the Pooh. You have Alice in Wonderland. You have anime properties. You have all kinds. You have Pokemon. I mean, any fandom that you can think of, he's got a print for it. So make sure you follow him at Amorable Art on Instagram. Great person. Let's see here. Eileen says, met on occasion Delilah. Am I saying that right? Delilah Corinne, who writes sci-fi and I know Delilah Corinne, who writes sci-fi and fantasy books. Are you familiar with this individual, Jeff?
I have not come across Miss Delilah.
I hope I'm saying that right.
Now, that's interesting. I wonder
right, sci-fi,
which books are hers.
Yeah, you might want to Google that in your backstage area. AK, look at your phone. So Pat here is a great guy. Make sure you're following him on all sorts of social media at Amorable Art. I'll put his link here in just a moment. Let's see here. Jeff, have you met any writers, independent writers?
I have.
If so, who are those individuals?
One in particular, his name is Henri Compton. He has written a book called Yin Sun Shin. He has traveled. I mean, he's a fellow Chicagoan. That's how we became friends. He saw me shuffling by with all the stuff that I get signed at AwesomeCon a few years ago, and he goes, he stops me and he goes, brother, man. Whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, this is my stuff and some other stuff that was sent to me to get signed. And AwesomeCon is huge, and I'm going back and forth between my friend's booth and dropping off and carrying and all this stuff. And he goes, whoa, you look tired. You got to sit down. I was like, are you sure? He goes, yeah, brother, you got to sit down. And I'm like, okay. So I sit down and I'm kind of checking out his booth, and he's a comic book dealer and independent writer and artist. Really super, super nice guy. And him and his buddy were on one side. His buddy Kevin was selling the comics that they had in stock on one side. Great books. And then on the other side, Henri's just like hustling. I mean, hustling. This guy is in the middle of his aisle, right in front of his booth, stopping anybody who he can stop. Hey, come check out my booth. Come check out my book. And he's been selling Yin Soon for several years. He sells out every single time he shows up. The man hustles. And I think he also created a new book. It's a tiger, a samurai tiger. I can't remember exactly what it's called offhand because I saw him briefly at New York Comic Con. I was able to at least say a quick hello. Hey, Henri, how are you doing? Again, super, super nice guy. We clicked because we're both from Chicago, and he grew up in the suburbs, not too far from where I grew up. And he was that day at AwesomeCon. It was a hot day. I was definitely feeling the extent of how much work I was doing that day, dragging that little cart that I have behind me with all the stuff inside, getting signed. And he actually talked me into just putting my stuff down behind his booth because it was kind of like a midway point between the vendor side, Artist Alley, and then the celebrity side of the convention. It's almost like a gigantic airplane hangar. That's what I kind of related to. AwesomeCon is massive. The floor plan is massive.
It's like the size of like 3 or 4 football fields. It's so much, dude. And it's a lot of ground to cover, and that's just the main floor. When you have to go upstairs to get to the panels and stuff.
Yes,
you want to talk about football.
The floor plan for the panels is almost like a maze, dude. I'm surprised how people can actually find their way at that show. It's crazy.
But here's the thing about AwesomeCon. The thing, and most convention centers do this nowadays, I believe.
Yes.
If I'm missing something here, please correct me. But when you go upstairs to where the panel rooms are, most of them will have LED or LCD screens outside the door that say, "Hey, this is room 235. We have a panel at 1. We have a panel at 2, and these are the panels that are being held in this room."
Yeah.
So, trust me when I tell you, if you get the program book, that's important. But if you don't have the program book in front of you and you're scrambling to figure out where your panel is, ask the con-goers around you, or just look at the signs outside the door. Because
the program book is extremely important because it also gives you a list of every exhibitor who's there is listed,
and the numbers
and their booth numbers,
usually
and every artist / comic book writer is listed in those books. If you don't get one of those, you better hope that they have an app like New York Comic Con, because there's going to be people that are going to be there that you didn't even know were there, and you got lost in the shuffle.
That's
crazy.
So definitely make sure you grab the Basically,
program book.
One of the biggest pieces of advice we can give to anybody who's going to Comic Cons, especially if it's your first time, pick up the program book at the front door, or get it at the check-in desk when you have to register and pick up your badge.
Yes.
So,
super important.
Even though they give you one though, like every time I've been to a convention, they give you a plastic bag that has the book and some other stuff. And by the way, Eileen says, "Just hope program meetups are not changing quickly." That's a valid point. Program meetups, like, you mean meetings between certain people who run the convention behind the scenes or in front of the scenes? I can see how that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Communication is vital when you're working together at a convention. That is for sure.
Is it ever? Yeah.
Just hope program
meetups. I'm in so many group chats just during a convention weekend. It's crazy.
Yeah, your phone's probably blowing. Which, by the way, when you go to a convention, bring a portable battery charger.
Yes. Especially the big ones like New York. Anything in New York, Chicago, Florida, Philadelphia, even Philadelphia and DC. I'm telling you, those things are so big, and your phone's sitting there trying to find a signal half the time, so it drains battery anyway. So, and sometimes Wi-Fi is good, sometimes it's not. I'll tell you.
Make sure the venue has good Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Thursday at New York Comic Con 2 weeks ago, man, I had no signal, had no way of communicating for the whole day.
Really?
It was crazy.
No wonder they call it the Javits Center, because it's jumping like crazy. It's absolutely. By the way, Eileen says apps are good unless it crashes. I was at a Comic-Con one time where the app actually crashed.
Yep, I've seen that too. It happens. So sometimes you got to go old school and just rely on the program and set your calendar notifications so that you can get to the right panel and when and where. Make sure you know where you're going, because especially the bigger center convention centers, you can get lost and you can get jammed into a conglomerate of people on an escalator going the wrong way. Don't do that,
man. Yeah, well, I'll say this. For me, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, escalators are sometimes they could be a cluster, you know what, and sometimes they can be clear as a bell. And then when people are trying to get into the elevator, it's crazy town. So, especially with people who have strollers and carts.
I have carts.
Yeah, but let me ask you this: you're not allowed to use the escalator with your cart, are you?
Sometimes I do. At this point, especially at New York, I know the floor plan pretty well, so I know how to get to where I need to be. So I can zip to the elevator, get right up, go where I need to be, run off to the next spot.
Use the elevator.
Yeah,
there's that too. So just be careful and be mindful of others. There's another piece of advice: be mindful of others around you. But when it comes to vendors here on this episode of Convention Chronicles, talking about vendors, someone I've had the pleasure of meeting later on in my Comic-Con years, and this is someone I got to give a huge shout out. By the way, any vendor that we mention on this show, we're giving them a shout out. We respect them. We wish them nothing but success moving forward. We can't mention all 30,000 vendors that we come across because we just don't have that kind of time. But I will say, this individual is someone who continues, and I do mean this seriously, continues to up their game and make their artwork just continue to soar to incredibly, really gifted heights, at least from where I'm saying. I can't speak for everybody. But let's take a look at this individual. This is Rob Taylor. Taylor of Herofied Art. Now, you want to talk about a digital artist who knows their shiznit and will go to bat for the fans and the millions and millions of geek fans out there. Look at what this man can do. I mean, honestly. Now, granted, in this photo, which was taken at AwesomeCon earlier this year in 2023, I don't know, Jeff, were you there, Jeff? I don't think you were there.
No, that was one I had to actually miss because I was at Georgetown University working the summer Hoya program. That was the first weekend I was down there, which is a bummer because it was within the same city limits of where I was. I just unfortunately I was doing the initial job part of the process of getting the training, doing the get to know you sessions and stuff like that. So unfortunately I couldn't make it over there. But man, this is some incredible work, man.
I mean, look, this man, Rob Taylor. When I discovered him at a convention, I think it may have been, I can't remember if it was at Fan Expo in Philadelphia. It was the first time I met him, or maybe it was, I think it was Fan Expo of the year before. And I was so taken by his work. I thought, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is like uber cool. Is it Boston Nova? Chevy Nova? No. Excellent. Yeah. Which, by the way, he does have a Turtles print. You just can't see it in this image because it's up on his website. But anyway, Rob Taylor is holding a piece there. Now, this is just an example of his work. I didn't purchase this piece. But that's Bo-Katan right there that he's holding. The Bo-Katan Kryze character.
Oh, man, that would have been cool to bring up to Katie Sackhoff 2 weeks ago.
Oh, guaranteed. So he does artwork from Star Wars. He does artwork from Marvel. He does artwork from DC, featuring DC characters. He also does artwork featuring classic ships from Star Wars, as you can see in the background there on the left-hand side of your screen, the Enterprise of Star Trek. You can also see some of the other Star Trek ships above us in this photo here. You see Darth Vader on the right.
Falcon, dude. It's right there.
I know, but and by the way, one of the really cool things about his prints with where the ships are is that he has a quote on each print that contains a ship on it. So for the Millennium Falcon, it says, "She may not look like Mutz, but she's got it where it counts."
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful.
And actually, the Turtles print is right there on the bottom, towards the right hand part of your screen there by the Joker. That's a
Okay.
TMNT print right there, which is right above the
Ah,
Joker. So
okay.
Rob Taylor and I become very good friends in a very short period of time. Not only am I following this guy on social media, but anytime he has a post on his social media, I share it out.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
put it on my Instagram and I tag his profile and I say, "Give this man a follow,"
Very cool.
because his
Very
artwork is just, oh, like it's like the positive side of opening up the Ark of the Covenant and your face not melting off. So you know what I mean? It's really really good. So
Yeah.
please, by all means, check out his art. I got to be honest with you. I got tons of his prints on my walls. I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, my picture. By the way, the pictures of some of the artwork I've posted from different vendors over the years, you can find them on my Instagram and social media feeds, respectively. Herofied Art on Instagram. Give him a follow. This guy is a hashtag like a boss, and he's a great guy. And if you ever see him at a convention, please say hi to him and tell him how much you love the fandoms that he, puts out prints for and things like that. He's actually putting together another one to get ready for Rhode Island Comic Con next week. He's actually putting out one for Superman,
Ooh,
featuring the Superman actors who are going to be
nice.
at Rhode Island, and it's going to be featured on his Instagram feed later this week. So definitely check that out. Follow him. Follow him on Facebook because he posts on Facebook and Instagram, both social media channels as well. So Jeff, little birdie told me you may be going to the island of Rhodes. So if you are,
I'm putting it together.
then you need to pay this guy a visit at his booth and tell him that your homeboy Ryan sent you. So
Well, I mean, as long as I have a minute to.
yeah,
to
you're going to
swing by.
dedicate. You're going to dedicate a minute.
that's
to Rob Taylor.
that's a busy convention, my friend.
I know it is, but you got to.
I showed you that guest list, didn't I?
You got to give some, dude. You got to give some love to the vendor people.
True.
Gotta get,
Speaking of which,
speaking of vendors.
you reminded me that my buddy Jimmy Gambino has custom prints as well. He goes by Toys from the Dark Side. I don't know if you've come across Jimmy or not, but he usually has a double booth wherever he is, Monster Mania, Rhode Island. He even ventured out to Steel City. I helped him out at his booth setup and breakdown, and Jimmy specializes in kind of the mashup vision of art print and everything. He'll have different prints, let's say, of the Terrifier versus Bray Wyatt's The Fiend, and Undertaker versus somebody else, or Hulk Hogan versus the Incredible Hulk. Jimmy specializes in those types of art styles, so that's been kind of his thing. So Jimmy's a great one to look up, and I just sent you the link to his page. He's got a lot of his art posted as it is. It's called Toys from the Dark Side.
Toys from the Dark Side.
Yes.
Is that a Star Wars?
Really cool stuff, though. Yeah.
Does he do Star Wars?
He's got Star Wars in there. Absolutely.
Because if you call yourself Toys from the Dark Side, that kind of gives a Star Wars.
He started out as a toy dealer. He started out in finding those vintage Star Wars toys and bringing them to conventions, and then he kind of shifted into this art thing that he enjoys doing, and he's got a digital artist he works with, and they create some pretty awesome stuff. Some a little more PG-13, slightly R-rated kind of stuff, and level of violence. If you're into that, I get a kick out of the wrestlers. I like his mashups with the wrestlers. He's done Icons of Wrestling, by the way, and a couple of other shows. So he kind of branches out and does different shows. He's also based in New York. Also has an interesting sense of humor. So if you come across Jimmy, tell him I said hello. Great guy. So yeah, that as far as custom art vendors, he's probably one of the few guys I've gotten to know. I gave my pop vendors a shout. I'm trying to think. I sent you kind of a little bit of a short list of groups. Oh, can we talk about one of the best comic book vendors that I have gotten to know over the last like 3 or 4 years? Is that cool? Can we shift gears into comic realm for a little bit?
I wasn't going to allow that. No, I'm just kidding. Listen,
Really?
we're talking about vendors of all kinds here. For those of you just joining us, this is Convention Chronicles, where this topic, particularly we're talking about in this episode, is in fact vendors. If you have any questions about anything, any comments about any vendors that you've come across in your Comic-Con experiences, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. Whether you were joining this live or on the replay, thank you for being here. And don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. Jeff, if you want to dive into something known as comic books, I don't know what a book of a comic is,
Well,
but
what is this you call a comic book, sir?
Listen, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But before I meant, listen. Before, yeah, just sit in your corner. Anyway, listen. Before I share with you the next vendor experience and the next person I like to give a shout out to when it comes to vendors, by all means, Jeff, go ahead and take the floor. Who do you want to talk about here with us?
Oh, well, I would love to talk about my friends over at Captured Collectibles. I met these guys somewhere in between Terrificon and Dragon Con 3 years ago. This was something I've gotten myself into. I mentioned earlier in the show about CGC Comics, right? The thing about getting your comics witnessed by CGC is this. It's really, really tough to get all of the contributors to sign your books in one place. So what Captured Collectibles has been able to help me do is get a conglomerate of the artists and the writers who contributed to each book that I've handed over to them and gotten them to either sign or sign and sketch my books. In fact, they are the ones who helped me get my last Ronin book signed by seven of the creators who worked on that book. Because what they do is this, Ryan, they are CGC facilitators. So they can take a book. Let's say you met them at Terrificon in Connecticut in the summer in July. And you say, man, I've got this book, but Donnie Cates is only here. And I really want to get the other guys who did this as well. So can you guys, like, what can you do for me? So for $15 per book, they will go out and they will get you each of the writers and the artists along the way, because they go to so many shows every week, week in, week out. They're on the road. And this is what they do is they get artists to show up at their booths and do commissions and remarks and signatures all day. They do what's it called, variant covers, which are absolutely phenomenal. They run an awesome little program. They've got a lot of different connections with Comic Mint and some other comic book dealers as well. And they've had Clayton Crane at their booth a number of times now. It's super cool what they're able to do. And let me tell you how much fun it is to get a shipment from CGC that is finished, that has like all three of the names that are listed in the label who've signed or sketched or whatever. And they did all of that for me. And I get big bucks, no whammies, big grades on those. And I love it. I think what they do is phenomenal. It's run by a family. Jason is the owner. His son, JJ. Let me tell you, JJ has an eye for spotting 9/8 like I've never seen. It's like, dude, what do you think of this book? Do you think what do you think the grade would be? He can look at it. He can look at it and be like 9.2, 9.4, 9.6, 9.8. So it's pretty awesome. So those guys, what they do is phenomenal. They've gone across the pond. They went to conventions in Italy. They're based in Florida. So when they get done with your book, they can go walk right into CGC and do the drop off for you. Fill out the paperwork, give them your CGC account, and everything's taken care of. They have, by the way, Jason, the dad, the owner of the business, is a phenomenal comic book cleaner and presser. So they do everything from witnessing, pressing, cleaning, variants, and custom stuff. Anything that you're really looking for, go to their booth, talk to them. They've got they are deeply networked and entrenched in the Comic-Con. But not only just the building, but with everything. They even do private signings. They'll do like private signings with Jim Shooter every now and then. So check their website. Scotty Young, I think they just did one with him. Check out their website. They always have something going on. Their send-in service is impeccable. They treat each guest, each customer as if they're family. They're just phenomenal service. And I think I even got one book for you done by Capture Collectibles, right, Ryan? How'd that turn out for you?
I think yeah, you got Supergirl, Paul Kupperberg, right? Was that
I
them?
did. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for that. Second of all, yeah, my book. I mean, now granted, my book didn't come back as a 9.8, 9.6 or anything like that, but it was 7.5, and it was my first book. So I'm not gonna lose sleep over because it's still a 7.5. That's good for me. I can work with a 7.5. I'm not upset about it at all. So no, Capture Collectibles is great job, wonderful. Came in beautiful. I mean, presentation of it looked great. The casing of it was great. It's nice and shiny. It's like a treasure. So
I'll tell you.
Well done, man. I can't speak
Thank
for.
you.
I mean, I haven't had like a personal experience with Capture Collect because you had, you did me a solid, which I am forever grateful for. Don't get me wrong. But if I ever see Capture Collectibles at a convention, I will go up to them, say hi to them, say, "Hey, I'm a friend of that guy, no Jeff."
What's it like to get that tracking information, and it's like this like secure tracking information box you have to sign for it and everything from CGC? To me, it's like it's like the anticipation is just like oh, I can't wait to open this box.
Yeah,
I know what's in here.
Yeah, it took a while to get to my place, but when it did and it arrived, it was great. It was awesome. It worked out beautifully. So
yeah. Well, CGC at times the different times of the year can be really backed up, especially that at that time we were still dealing with the COVID backup. So they were, dude, I think they were behind by like 3 months. So it did take a little bit longer than expected. Sorry about that, but they are improving. I just handed off 7 books to CGC to be graded after getting a bunch of signatures on them at New York Comic Con 2 weeks ago. So I got the email that the submission is in. So now it's off to CCS for pressing and then grading afterwards. It'll probably take 6 to 8 weeks. But man, do I like getting that email saying a shipment from Florida is coming. And it's like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And we wish Capture Collectibles and the team over there all the best. The links are located in the comment section below, so you can follow them there. And I just looked at their website as you were giving your 4,000 word speech. And I got to tell you, they have things available online in their store. They have an online store. And I got to tell you, they got some beautiful books signed by some of the biggest stars in the universe. I'm not just talking about comic creators. They got actors.
Everybody. They get everybody.
They got Hayden. They got Ewan. They got Rosario Dawson, who played Ahsoka most recently. And I think they did a couple of books with Chris Evans 2 weeks ago too. I think don't know if I saw it on there. Maybe I missed it.
I don't know if I saw that or not, but I'm pretty sure they did. I'm pretty sure I saw one of them in line because, I know who they are and they know who I am. So.
Yeah, we know each other.
Yeah.
Some friends of mine will be coming here. I hope to show them a lot more courtesy than you've shown me. Anyway, that's the line for another movie for another time. So definitely check them out. All the links to where you can follow any and all the vendors we've mentioned in this episode of Convention Chronicles are located in the comments section on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure to follow us on Twitch as well. With that being said, I want to share with you, and by the way, thank you for sharing about Capture Collectibles. They're all over social media, man.
They're amazing. The Instagram posts,
and they're always going live when they're doing signings with like some of the bigger names like comic books. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how you guys do this, but my hat's off to you. It's not always easy to do that. So
no,
it's very delicate. So anyway,
yeah.
When it comes to vendors, and this is someone I met most recently, and by the way, I'm wearing one of their shirts. I'm representing one of the vendors. So this shirt is an X-Men shirt that has a quote on it from the greatest X-Men movie of all time, known as X-Men Days of Future Past. And it says, just because someone stumbles, loses their way, doesn't mean they're lost forever. Sometimes we all need a little help. Now, where does that shirt come from? Well, it comes from this individual, and I'm talking about Ashley of Fangirling Over Jesus Cosplay, FOJcosplay.com. Now, this is a picture that was taken earlier this year at Eastgate Comic-Con in Greensboro, North Kakalaki, also known as North Carolina, for those of us keeping track of the score at home. Now, the shirt I'm wearing in this photo is not something that I got from her booth, but the shirt that she's wearing clearly is from her booth. It's Bo-Katan Kryze's helmet. That's on that shirt design over there. And then the person on the right-hand side of her is her very good friend, Laura, who is wearing a Lord of the Rings shirt that says, "I am no man," referring to Miranda Otto's character in the Lord of the Rings franchise, if you know what I'm talking about, Jeff.
Yeah.
So she designs things that go on shirts, hats, hoodies, dog scarves. She just started putting out tumblers on her Etsy store, which you can find online. I'm going to put the link down here in a second. Nice. I got to tell you, I met her earlier this year, and I got to tell you something. This is one of the most unique and coolest original vendors I've ever met in my life. I mean, she is truly an all-star. Both her and her roommate Laura, they're both fantastic people. Both fantastic people, no doubt about it. She takes her love of fandom and intersects it, not to sound like that, but basically what I'm saying is she takes her love of fandom and puts it together with her love of faith, if you will. And there are some of the items do have pieces of quotes from movies on them, and they also have quotes from scripture on them. So, but it's really, really good stuff. It's very, very cool. Fangirling Over Jesus is the name of her business, but it's not just for girls. I want to make that perfectly clear. It's for all fans of all ages, of all generations, men, women, and child. So definitely check it out. This is an X-Men shirt that I have. Another shirt that I have that I bought from her at that convention that day was what was it? An Ahsoka Tano shirt. Which is really, really cool because Ahsoka Tano is kind of a big deal right now because her TV series just blew up the interwebs on little streaming service called Disney Plus. Hashtag not a sponsor, by the way, not a sponsor, but she's an amazing person. Her clothing is awesome. I mean, she's got something from Lord of the Rings. She's got stuff from Doctor Who. She has swag from Harry Potter. She has swag from Marvel, nice. Not so much DC, but more so Marvel and Star Wars. Star Wars is her number one. I think it's her number one fandom. I think
even on DC. Oof.
Yeah, she doesn't really have too much DC there, but listen. She's still got 31 flavors for everybody. Okay, so check her out. She's got a great website. She has an Etsy store, as well as a Rob Taylor of Hero Fight Art. All those links are located in the comment section on our Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube feeds of this episode of Convention Chronicles. If you're just joining us, don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. Hosted by myself. My name is Ryan of Nerd Culture, alongside my co-host and good friend, Jeff. So we've been talking about vendors, and Ashley is fantastic. Her swag is so good. It's great. And not only that, it's so money, they just don't even know it. It's like a big bear, man. It's so money. It's so money. So, that's my thoughts on that. But so those are some of the vendors that we've had a chance to meet up with and talk with and become friends with over the years as we've gone through the convention circuit up and down the East Coast. Some of us have been out west. I haven't yet. Sorry. Haven't been to the Wild West.
Yeah.
Haven't been to C2E2, never been to Superman Celebration. I haven't been to some of the other stuff that takes place in the Midwest or out west. So there's a lot. Believe me, our Comic-Con careers are just getting started, and we hope to travel to more and more places to go to more and more events as the years go on. Especially if Jeff and I are going to be going, because Jeff and I are like brothers. So if we're going to be traveling,
hey, I'll go wherever they open the door for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, come on out! You bet. I will be there. Sure, I will be there. What? Hey, what do you have scheduled for September? Nothing. All you. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do some traveling.
Let's just go. Get in the car,
if you've never been to a
drive.
convention before, give it a chance. Visit a local convention. Go to a small convention to start out with. Go to the bigger conventions as you get your feet wet into the convention circuit. Take your families with you. Take your friends with you. I think it'd be a great experience for all involved, including yourself.
Yeah, big or small. I mean, I went to StellarCon in Hartford, Maryland last month, and I was like, oh,
dude,
that was kind of cool.
That's morphed from a 1-day to a 2-day show because it's gotten so popular.
And the line was pretty long to get into the door. So that little community college convention center definitely was bumping. So that was kind of cool. And then of course I go to like Mania where it's like 10,000 people on a hotel floor, and then you go to New York Comic-Con where you're just an ant in a wheel, like 100,000 people walking around like, hey, it's crazy. But yeah, man, how do you feel about the wrestling genre of Comic-Cons? Are you okay with me talking about that a little bit?
Wrestling? I mean, do wrestlers even go to Comic-Cons or even know what a Comic-Con is? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, sir.
I'm just kidding. So if you want to bring up some of the well, maybe not so much the wrestlers. I want to focus on the vendors here.
Yes. And that's what I'm talking about.
If you want to bring up some more vendors that you didn't get a chance to talk about earlier, please.
There's two in particular. Sure. So what? Maybe you don't know this, Ryan, but there's something called wrestling conventions along the same lines of horror conventions like Mania and Chiller Theater and all those Scarefest, all those things. All of those conventions, but actually this weekend is Icons of Wrestling at the ECW Arena, folks. WrestleCade, that's a big show. I went to that one time and there was like thousands of people there. They have a ring in the middle of the convention center and they actually put on wrestling matches while you're at the convention, and all around the ring are a bunch of booths for different wrestlers you can meet. I met the great Ricky Steamboat down there. Ric Flair was there. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Booker T. This show was massive, and it is got a lot of diehard people to go to. WrestleCade is phenomenal. I know that my friend Rob is very, very deep in the wrestling convention world. He runs RF Video and now Signed by Superstars, the same group that I'm working with. Probably going to be working with long term. I think we just had a really good conversation the other day about what my plans are for 2024, and he's on board with it. So we'll see where it takes us. He's putting on Icons of Wrestling right now, and then he and I are taking send-ins for Rhode Island Comic-Con for next weekend. So we're just kind of getting started already. But he usually has a big booth at, let's say, he's the one who had the wrestling ring put into AwesomeCon at one point. So he's had wrestlers at his booth like Sergeant Slaughter, and I want to say he had Hacksaw Jim Duggan at his booth at one point. He's had even Ric Flair show up at Icons of Wrestling over the years. He's had the Four Horsemen come through. He's entrenched. He's big ECW too. That's why his show is at the former ECW arena, now called the 2300 Arena. I'll tell you, it is super, super cool for a kid who grew up as a wrestling fan to walk into the former ECW arena, and they still have the murals painted on the walls. They still have the banners hanging and everything. I would have killed I would have killed to be a part of one of those shows when they were live back then. But the next best thing is to check out Icons of Wrestling, because you get that feel. That blood, sweat, and tears is still in that building, and you get that feel as soon as you walk in. It's pretty cool, man. It is like the mecca of independent wrestling, and for him to put on conventions, I would say 2 to 3 times a year in that arena is just super, super special. It's super special. Like Bully Ray walking around in the ECW arena signing. I had the last time I was there, I had Bully Ray sign a piece of a table from one of his matches at Ring of Honor, and he lost his mind. He's like, oh my God, this is special. This is special. Like, and he did a beautiful job signing it, and I'm standing next to him with it. Super, super cool. But Rob has been able to get big names, Sting, the Hardy Boys. He's really done an awesome, beautiful job bringing this convention together. I think Kane is his headliner this year, and surprisingly, he found Ahmed Johnson. Ahmed Johnson's going to be there. Like, I don't know, for you hardcore wrestling fans out there, Ahmed Johnson hasn't been heard from for like 20-something years.
Only reason I know who he is because I played the video game. The only reason I know who he is because I played the wrestling video game WWE Warzone for PlayStation 1 back in the day.
Yes.
That's the only reason I know who he is. By the way, real quick, I want to address this. The Renegade Bard has a question for us in the chat. So the Renegade Bard says, I run the Cove, which is a celebrity author appearance bookstore. Where do you suggest looking for good conventions? Is there a list aside from fan cons?
Ooh, great question. And the Cove, I believe, where's the Cove based in? Because I think I've heard of you guys. So anyway, as far as my resources, where I find conventions, social media, big time social media. Like even my knowledge of what's going on every week, there are a couple of websites that do try to get a calendar per year. I've seen some come and go. Like there was a you were just at FanX. Okay, very cool. FanX is huge. I had a friend go up there.
That's a big show. That's a big.
Yes,
like
my friend,
I believe it's FanX Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yes,
is that where it is?
Huge.
Which I hear is huge. Which, by the way, Jeff, you and I need to go on tour and go there.
I would love to go to that one. My
friend
friend Mary actually was a vendor at FanX last month. She drove all the way from DC.
Wow.
All the way out there. I think she hit one other show along the way. It was like a 2-week drive for her. And she drove all the way out there. Her business is called Toe Beans. She specializes in soaps. She molds soaps into all sorts of fun pop culture things and all things pop culture, anywhere from Doctor Who to Star Wars to
bars of soap. Ocean Breeze soap will get you clean.
Hey, you know what, Ryan? Let me tell you about my friend Mary. My friend Mary is
go ahead. Talk about this vendor friend of yours.
Lovely, lovely person. I've known her since middle school. And actually, I got her into conventions by having her meet Joe at Awesome Minis, and then she spun off and got creative and started this soap business. And let me tell you how important and encouraged it is to check out Mary's booth during the weekends. If you can find Toe Beans at your convention, go and check out her booth. The soaps have these really cool different fragrances that she mixes together, and it smells wonderful. She has her catchphrase is hilarious. I think it's something, shove your face in it. Shove it in your face. That's it. She yells out, shove it in your face. And people stop and they're like, what? And then they come over and she has these beautifully molded soaps that smell very beautiful. Fragrances are beautiful and lovely. I think I said beautiful a few times.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think you've said that word beautiful a number of times.
Wonderful.
Island says there was a fan expo in San Francisco on Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah,
yes, there's a fan expo, but Fan X is a different company.
True, but let me just state for the record, I think it's strange to have. I mean, some conventions do this, but I find it strange to have a show during a holiday weekend. You might want to wait till after the holiday to do something like this.
So,
I mean,
so
listen,
from
you're still
experience,
going to get a big crowd, but I think doing a convention over a holiday weekend is not the best thing for business.
So here's my take on it. You and I both know that Awesome Con did that weekend over Easter a couple of times, and it wasn't so good. It wasn't.
And they did it on
good.
Father's Day weekend too.
Father's Day and Comic Book Day, they've kind of hopped around a little bit. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not so good. I gotta be honest, the San Francisco on Thanksgiving weekend is an interesting one because that is the biggest shopping day of the year. Black Friday.
It's the busiest traveling day of the year.
It's the busiest travel. It's the busiest shopping day. Black Friday. So I think it's especially with the stacked guests that they have, including Mr. Mark Hamill. I'm pretty sure
they got the whole Star Wars
pretty
cast.
Sure that show. I think money's gonna rain down from the heavens.
Money's gonna rain. It's
like a Keystone Comic Con when they brought Tom Holland in. That Sunday was packed to the gills. Money was flying. Vendors were happy. Guests were happy.
I was in the middle of that chaos when Tom Holland walked through the door.
But money was just flying. It was everywhere. Money was everywhere.
Let's talk about Keystone for a minute, because when I was at Keystone with my good friend, I was there with a couple of friends. So obviously they were both there because they had mad crushes on some dude named Tom something or other, Tom Holland. And I had to sit for what felt like years for my friends to get their photo ops because the photo ops were messed up. The lines were out of control. There was no communication. The timing of it was off. It was poorly managed back then. Poorly managed. And I had to sit against a pillar in the middle of that chaos. And I actually thought I was going to pass out. It was so rough for me.
I remember. But that's where I met my friend at Epic Photo. And I'll tell you, they did what they could. That Epic Photo did what they could there, and they
do Awesome Con, and they do a great job at Awesome.
They do Awesome Con. They do New York. They'll be at Rhode Island.
New York?
They do
New York?
all the big shows. Yeah.
Jeez, I didn't know Epic Photos did New York.
Comic-Con. They're huge, dude. Huge. Epic Photos. Honestly, Epic Photos to me, I think they are an incredible and vital part of the Comic-Con. They too are vendors. You have to go up and buy your ticket from them so that you can get your autograph or photo op, and they're very regimented.
Top loaders.
Yep, the top loaders. They're on it. My friend Layla, I've gotten to know for the last few years. She is the resource of all resources. If you have to reschedule your autograph time, if you got to switch your photo op time or anything like that to bend your times, go see Layla. Tell her Jeff sent you, and she will take care of you. She is absolutely lovely, wonderful, sweet, amazing, fantastic. Yeah, and everything else.
Some stuff we can't talk about on camera. By the way, more people, before you continue on about the vendor you were speaking of just a moment ago, the Renegade Bard says we're doing Planet Comic Con, ATL, Indiana, Tampa, Fanboy, Knoxville, and Heroes Con thus far. And then he goes on to say the Renegade Bard is commenting now. He says, we're doing Fan Expo in New Orleans. We did Boston. We did Chicago with the Bears. But unfortunately, they were autograph factories. And then he also says, we travel in an RV. How do you handle parking and accommodations?
Oh, wow. Great. Okay. So here are some of my little my little secrets of networking and everything else. Because I work with vendors maybe fully directly for the full weekend, or sometimes I just help set up and break down. They in turn set me up with accommodations. Parking, sometimes I ride with them. We'll meet along the way and I'll jump in with them and everything else. Like when I helped Jimmy Gambino, who has the Toys from the Dark Side, he was driving out from New York. He met me in State College while I was living in State College. I jumped into his truck. We drove all the way out to Steel City Comic Con. I helped him set up and break down. And then I stayed with him. He's a buddy of mine, so we crashed in the hotel. And then I ran and did autographs while he was doing his thing. Your autograph factory comment was really, really interesting, and that's something that you do have to take into account, and especially as a vendor, you have to realize that this is something I've talked to Joe Grieve of Austin Minis a few times. You have to realize that the fans are showing up to get autographs, to get their photo ops, and to shop. But there will be some lines that they get onto that can be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours in waiting. And what happens is the fan is stuck on the line for that much time, and they're not shopping. So the money flow, it can be tricky. So the nice thing about Epic Photos is they've come to realize that. So they try to stagger the autograph timings and the price, and the photo op times, so that people can still have an opportunity to walk around and move around and still get to stop by those booths in the vendor hall. But I'll tell you, I have experienced situations like at Monster Mania Oaks, where I was online for Heather Langenkamp for 4 hours, and her line was super, super long. That is a show that Epic Photos does not do. Monster Mania works with a different photo op group, and it's tough. Their times, their scheduling and everything can be really rough. If you go to Robert Englund's line on a Saturday at Monster Mania, you're going to be there standing in line all day. It's going to be 7 to 8 hours just waiting for your chance to meet Robert Englund. So I do think that is something that vendors and convention organizers really need to discuss to figure out how they can relieve these fans so that they can leave the line and come back and go shop and come back and do stuff like that, because it does become an autograph factory. That's a great point. And I don't know the answer to it, but I would love to be part of the conversation though, and help organize something like that, so that there are opportunities for shopping while standing in a line for 4 hours average,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for bringing it. By the way, for those of you just tuning in,
Great
this is
point.
Convention Chronicles. We're talking about vendors, but we're also fielding your questions. So if you have any questions for us about Comic Cons or conventions in general, whether it's about the vendors or not, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. Whether you're joining this live or on the replay, thank you to each and every single one of you who have done that. By the way, the Renegade Bard continues to go on. He says, many will blow all their money at the autograph booths. The con business model see a success as registrations sold. Vendors have a different model.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where when we were talking about earlier, how you can't have a convention without the vendors, because the vendors are really the ones who are prepaying and getting, and it's almost like if you look at it, if you decide, hey, I want to have a comic convention in my town, I want to be a Comic-Con organizer for my town, right? You find your venue, you find your setup, you get your floor plan layout. The first thing you're doing is contacting vendors, because they're the ones who bring in the initial money. And they're the ones. It's almost like doing a physical Kickstarter off the internet, where you're going out and trying to find a list of 100 vendors and seeing who's available, who can be there, who can afford the booth pricing and everything else, and fit into the booth and accommodate the space they need. And then you can go on to finding your Comic-Con guest list as far as artists and creators and celebrities. That's really the backbone of how a comic convention is organized. You can't do it without the vendors. So when a con organizer gets together and they've brought in the vendors, they also have to remember that the vendors need to eat too. So you gotta be able to set parameters where people are able to get over to the vending hall or the vending side of the hall, so that they shop and everybody goes home happy.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to, I didn't get a chance to comment on this before, and I apologize that I didn't, because I wanted to make sure that we answered everybody's questions respectively, and I wanted Jeff to point some things out for us. But going back to this comment that we brought up earlier, I want to address this for a minute, because when I heard that Fan Expo San Francisco was going to be held on Thanksgiving weekend, I'm thinking, you've got to be out of your mind, because it's the busiest travel day of the year. It's the busiest holiday season of the part of the holiday. It's one of the busiest parts of the holiday season of the year in general.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a convention, at least in my opinion, I can't listen. Whoever runs these conventions, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to run your business. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But what I am going to say is that I think it's better when you hold conventions that are either before or after a certain holiday that takes place during the calendar year. Because now, yes, Jeff brought this up earlier, and I want to address this too. Awesome Con in Washington, D.C., which is one of the biggest Comic Cons on the East Coast, because that thing is the length of like 3 or 4 football fields.
Huge.
I'm not kidding you.
Huge.
I have walked that convention floor. Jeff has walked that floor. I've been upstairs. I've been to the third. I've had to go upstairs to get my badge and to meet up with my peeps, and just to get out the door to go to get some food. Okay, it is a big, giant, huge venue. But every time that it's been held, at least during the time, I think Jeff and you were there a couple of times when it was held during Easter weekend.
Yeah.
Didn't really, I mean, was it crowded? Yeah, but it wasn't like so overwhelming to the point where you couldn't like breathe, I guess, to a certain degree. I don't know. But when you have it on holidays, I don't think that's the best thing to do for conventions as an owner. So if you're able, I know this isn't always the case because venues sometimes get rented out for certain dates. If you can't book a venue for something that takes place either before or after a holiday weekend, but you can only do it during that holiday, I mean, listen, if you got to do what you got to do, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you can avoid the craziness of a holiday weekend, please do, because let's let the people celebrate their holidays in their own way and respect each other's belief systems. By the way, let's see here. The Renegade Bard has more questions for us, so let's bring these up here. He says,
Please.
He says, sorry for eating up all the Q&A here. 2024 will be our second con season with the Cove.
Awesome.
With the Cove. And by the way, the Renegade Bard has been a guest on our show known as And I Quote, so be sure to go back and watch that episode, because that was a fun every episode that we do with And I Quote has been a blast and very educational too. So make sure to check out the Renegade Bard on that episode of And I Quote. The thumbnail, you can see it there. Definitely check it out. He was on one of our episodes. He was great. By the way, he also says, before we do a show, we look at the economy of a city.
Ooh.
Is that a factor for you, and what do you take into consideration?
Okay. Great questions. So I first of all, I love the fact that he referred to it as con season. As you know, Ryan, we don't really see conventions pop up in January or February. There's a big reason for that, because the big rush is usually from, I would say, August, September through early December. A lot of conventions are trying to pop up during that time because what's going on is, you know, it's the holiday shopping season. So you'll see a lot of conventions pop up, horror conventions, pop culture conventions, wrestling conventions, and everything in between, sci-fi conventions and everything in between. So con season, great reference. I do like the summertime. The summertime does have a good amount of conventions all over the place. There's been a lot of discussion as far as the calendar goes when it comes to Baltimore Comic-Con, Rhode Island Comic-Con, and New York Comic-Con. Those are three of the biggest conventions in the October time period on the calendar, early November, and then you throw in Monster Mania. That can be a big economic factor as well. So when you're looking at, as a vendor, when you're looking at where you want to go, when you want to go, look at the calendar and see which other conventions are happening around that area at that time. Because I can tell you right now, just from comments that I'm reading about people wanting to go to Rhode Island this year, people are talking about how they're tapped out because they went to New York. So you want to take that in consideration. So especially on the East Coast, there's so many conventions that take place between DC, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and north of New York and Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. There are so many different shows that take place throughout the year that you want to be kind of a little picky if you're a vendor and say, okay, well, this convention just had a big one. Like, you don't want to go to a convention that just had a huge convention that sucks all the money out of the market area around there. So keep that in consideration when you're doing when you're researching your conventions. Some great conventions I have found along the way, like Ryan's talked about Knoxville. Knoxville's a really interesting part of the country because you don't see a lot of, or I'm not Knoxville, Lexington. I'm so sorry, Ryan. Kentucky doesn't get a lot of conventions. It has the Fanboy Expo, and that's about it. Chicago, you'll see with C2E2, but then they have a couple of horror conventions. That's about it. Detroit with Motor City, it's the only convention that takes place in Detroit. Atlanta is great because they only have Dragon Con. Sometimes in proximity, I think they have a couple of horror conventions down there. But what you want to do as a vendor is look at the full calendar for that area and say, how many conventions are coming through here at a time? Because that's when you start to realize, wow, there's going to be a lot of money there, or not a lot of money there. Another unknown one that Virginia, there's the Chantilly Sports Show. That's a good one from what I've heard. It brings out a lot of big sports names. I think they're even bringing out Dennis Rodman soon. Yeah, and then there's the Virginia Comic Con. There's the West Virginia Comic Con. Sometimes you want to go in and look at those smaller venues and smaller shows, because a lot of times that's where you're making your big weekends. Because that's where, Fairfax, Virginia has a good one. I don't know if they're still running or not, but research those things and look for those things, because a lot of times you want to look at the area, look at the economic status of that area. Is it a middle class, upper middle class, upper class town? And they're going to have a show, and they don't get shows very often. I'm going there. That's going to be a big moneymaker right there. So
yeah, good. What was I going to say? Good points there, man. And by the way, we appreciate the questions here, the Renegade Bard.
That's
don't feel guilty about it if you have any more questions. By the way, Jeff, here, I feel like this is Professor Jeff's show, honestly. So the Renegade Bard has another question for the both of us. He says,
"Sure,
I think a 4-day show or 4-day shows are a waste. Your thoughts?"
Wow.
Well, wow. Okay, so. Wow. Here's my thought on it. Let me go ahead and give Jeff a break here, because I feel like he's been talking for way too long.
It's okay. So, it's all right. I don't mind sharing what I know.
It's fine. No, it's all good.
That's what I do. I'm a teacher, man. I stand in front of the classroom and I got to go.
Talking to a guy who's got a degree in history, like he knows his history very good.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so 4-day shows are a waste. You're feeling. So the Renegade Bard, let me put it to you like this: unless you're able to work out something with your 9-to-5 job, or you find a babysitter to look after the kids, if you want to go between you and your wife, or you want to take the kids, but you have to take them out of school because Thursdays and Fridays are normally school days for children, right? So you have to plan this well in advance. Now, what do I think about 4-day shows in general? It's kind of it kind of throws people off a little bit, because when I think of Comic Cons, I think of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, nothing else. I don't think of Wednesday preview night. I don't think of Thursday preview night. I don't think of any of that. All I think about is getting there by Friday afternoon, if I can, if my work schedule permits it, or I go to a convention Saturday, Sunday. I get a 3-day pass, but I just go Saturday, Sunday because I know I can make it Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. You've definitely had the experience of the con goer, Ryan, whereas on the side of the con vendor, a 4-day show.
But as far as my feelings go, a 4-day show, I don't think it's all that necessary, and also I think it's a little bit too much work on the vendors and the people who work in front of the camera and behind the scenes. But anyway, those are my 2 cents. Jeff, what are your thoughts on a 4-day show?
Okay, here's what I think of 4-day shows. I think 4-day shows, the way New York does it, it's a 4-day show. Thursday is kind of that get the people in the door, get everybody set up. It's kind of Thursday's the rush to get all the exclusives and everything else. That's Thursday. Friday, Saturday is more of the packed in Comic-Con panels, autograph sessions, photo ops, artist alley. I mean, everything is just stacked Friday, Saturday. And then Sunday at New York becomes family day. So this is where they kind of bring in new people and new fans in, because it's specifically designed for family day. So you see a lot more of the smaller children and parents, and so you actually breathe life back into the vendor hall and into the con itself, because they're doing different themes. Now, I do remember at one point, I think Awesome Con was a 3 or 4 day show. I can't remember. And at one point, Sunday was like the down day. That was when people were kind of packing up early and leaving and everything else, because everything kind of just slowed down. So I think it's dependent upon how the convention is organized. If they're going to push for a 4-day show like C2E2 or New York Comic-Con or those really big shows, San Diego, they've got to really kind of pace it, because at some point it's going to exhaust the money coming in. It's going to exhaust the general admission person walking around. I'll tell you what, after I got done with New York Comic-Con 2 weekends ago, I was still tired the following Thursday. I was so exhausted Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I went back to work too. I worked all 4 days after New York Comic-Con. I was so tired that my feet hurt, my ankles hurt, my knees hurt. I was still, my muscles were exhausted. I was still tired from New York Comic-Con. It was a long, I mean, and the walking, the subway and everything else, it was nuts. But it was fun. It's a fun chaos. But yeah, as far as the stand goes, as far as being a vendor, I think you have to kind of look at how things are being set up as far as programming and everything. What I would say is this. The cool thing with New York was they specifically get people who can only be there Thursday or Friday as far as celebrities. They're not a lot of guests are there all weekend, and some are just specific days. Like I remember a specific day a couple of years ago when they brought Mark Ruffalo in just for Thursday, because they knew they needed a boost in general admission ticket sales. They brought Mark in, and boom, Thursday sold out. And Thursday was a good day for vendors and everybody else. Everybody else was going home happy. So I think that's kind of important. I know that vendors are kind of turned off by the celebrity guests because they take up the time and they take up the funds and the resources and everything else. But remember, to me and to a lot of people who attend Comic-Cons, we're there because they got so-and-so that we've never met before, and we want to do a photo op with them, or we want to get an autograph from them because they're rare and they don't do appearances and it's special. So my thing about that is what I do after I get done with that booth or that celebrity, I go and find my vendors and I go find what I need to get or pick up or go shop and everything else before or after those autograph times or those photo op times. So I think, especially that mention of Keystone Comic-Con again, that Sunday when Tom Holland was there, yes, it was mass chaos, but there were so many people there who were excited to be at a Comic-Con and be at a Comic-Con with Peter Parker himself that they were wandering around spending as much money as they had in their pockets because this was a big draw for them. It's a big draw to bring in somebody like that. So yes, it can slow down things for the vendor hall. Sometimes it boosts the vendor hall too, because you get people to come in who wouldn't go to a Comic-Con. Let's remember that Comic-Con 10 to 15 years ago was not a cool thing to do. You know, nowadays, yes, it's super popular and pop culture is running wild like it is like never before. But 10 to 15 years ago, you could walk into a convention, pay in general admission, and get an autograph from 10 people who had no lines whatsoever, including Stan Lee, and then go spend money at the vending table and leave. So it's a phenomenon that's completely changed because pop culture, because TV shows like Big Bang Theory made Comic-Con a front and center, mainstream thing. And I think, yes, there's a lot of competition. It's tough. What vendors go through is incredible. The amount of work that you put in just for those couple of days at the convention. But besides that, leading up, getting your product in order, having your storage units, ordering products, creating products. If you're an artist or in Artist Alley, it is a phenomenal amount of work. But there's competition everywhere, and you've got to have that thing that stands out to people. Like my friend Scott runs a booth called Family Dragon. He's got some very alternative stuff that you wouldn't see at any other booth, of statues and furry bones and all sorts of stuff, plushes and things that you wouldn't see at other event tables. So sometimes you got to kind of branch out and see what sells, and sometimes it's hit, sometimes it's a miss, but it's an ever evolving process of being a vendor. It's cutthroat. It's tough.
Yeah, I could definitely get with that. And for me, 4-day shows, for me, the bottom line for me is this: it's too much stress, too much work. keep it simple. Keep it Friday through Sunday. If not, keep it Saturday to Sunday.
Hey, but if they have that one guest that can only be there Sunday,
well,
you're there.
Yeah, you can boost your Sunday numbers if you bring in that celebrity on a Sunday. But I'm just saying,
exactly.
It depends.
And they do it. They do it.
Yeah, they do it, and the circumstances are different for each convention, so let's respect that.
Absolutely.
By the way, the Renegade Bard says Atlanta has ATL Comic-Con, which is run by the FanX folks.
Wow, interesting. Okay. That's a new one. I knew of Dragon Con. Dragon Con is huge.
I hear about Dragon Con all the time. I hear it takes up like 4 or 5 hotels, 4 or 5 conventions. It's a huge.
It takes up the entire city. It becomes Dragon Con weekend, and they celebrate it like a holiday. It's amazing. You see so many cosplayers just walking around Atlanta.
Yeah,
it's.
I hear it's a crazy. I also hear it's a crazy party. So Jeff,
if
you and I want to go down to Dragon Con one year and go to a party, let me know.
Whew, I don't know if I can have some 43.
We might have some fun at Dragon Con, because I know a lot of people who have booths at conventions at Dragon Con.
Hey, count me in, dude. I'll do it again.
Well, here's another thing for you. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to the Renegade Bard. Not only do I want to thank you for your comments and your questions, but I also want to tell you, that's how I met you. Was at the Cove at, I believe it was Fan Expo, or maybe it was even Keystone. I can't remember, but I believe it was Fan Expo Philadelphia last year or earlier. It wasn't this year. It was last year. And I saw you. I met you there. I also had the pleasure of meeting best-selling authors Dan Wells and Claudia Gray. And I also saw a friend of mine by the name of Keith R.A. DiCandido, who I know pretty well. He's been to Farpoint and Shorely for years and years and years. That's how I met him through there. And I wish you and the team over there at the authors, the Cove, as it's called, the best of luck with everything moving forward. But he goes on to say, Chicago with them Bears was a 4-day show. The extra
my hometown, man.
Well, listen to this. The Renegade Bard says, and I quote, Chicago was a 4-day show. The extra day of hotels and other expenses made the show less profitable. But then we fly out authors and arrange accommodations. So
interesting.
It's a bit of a give and take there.
So yeah, hey, Chicago is not a cheap town. I grew up outside of the city in Wheaton, Illinois, and I went to school in the Glenbard district, all over Glen Ellen, Illinois. It's definitely a great market, and C2E2 I thought to me was laid out really nicely. I know that Reed Pop. Obviously, Reed Pop considers New York its diamond, its number one show, and they are still kind of evolving with the C2E2 side of things, because it's about 6 months separated from New York. C2E2 usually takes place in late spring. I want to say like April-ish time. I do see them having a little bit of competition with Fan Expo Chicago coming up. So that'll make things a little bit interesting out there for my fellow Chicagoans, as we would say. But I think that it being a 4-day show, yes, their programming is a little more standard, where it's not as staggered as New York Comic Con is. but I do believe Sunday is still their family day in Chicago. So I think maybe they got to boost their marketing a little bit and kind of push the show a little bit harder to get it to that next level where it's on equal playing ground as New York. But it's tough. It's really, really tough when you're talking about how these shows are organized, how the money is flowing and everything else. I do think that maybe they could stagger their start times, where like maybe they do a morning, early afternoon session, kind of close things out, and then bring in the night session of like here's more guests, here's more photo ops, and kind of stagger it that way. That would be an interesting way of doing it. I've heard of shows doing it before, where there's like a second wind of new congoers coming in as other congoers are leaving. But yeah, I mean, I've seen shows start out really, really well and then quickly die out, and they're still open for another 2 hours, and it's slowly, there's only a few people walking the aisles and stuff like that. Whereas I've seen shows be a slow burn where they open at 12, like Baltimore opens at 12 and on a Friday, but people don't start showing up until like 4 or 5 o'clock because they're still at work. So I think it's all about how the programming and the set times and who they bring in and what they have featured is really going to be your way to look at how this show is going to do and how it's going to do for you. I know a lot of vendors who choose to bring in specific products for just those guests who are going to be there, like Undiscovered Realm, Toytastic, Plastic Empire. They have a table dedicated to just con guests who are going to be there so that you can get it signed. Buy this and get it signed. So I know a lot of people do that.
Similar to what
Prince and stuff
Seven
like
Bucks
that.
a Pop did the same thing at New York
Yep.
Comic Con. They had booths that were just for the celebrities that were going to be signing there.
Sure. So that's a way to kind of draw people in over to your table too. Like if you're an artist, have specific prints and you know, your work that are designed just for that specific celebrity guest, and have a table or setup just for people to walk up and be like, oh, cool. Katie Sackhoff's here. I really need something that has Bo-Katan on it because I want her to sign it. And I think it would be really cool to get this sign rather than one of her 8x10s that are always on her table. I want something unique. So I'm always doing that. That's one of my things, is like, if I find that somebody's going to be there, I'm always looking for a unique item or something like that. In fact, I remember a few years ago, there was an artist named Sal Otero at Harrisburg Comic-Con down the street from where I live now in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And they had Katrina Law as their one of their main guests. And I was like, well, there's not much Nisa Al Ghul stuff out there, so I want something cool for her to sign. I walked up to Sal, and Sal at the time was a comic book artist on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and IDW. And I said, hey man, what would it take to commission you for some custom art of Katrina Law as Nisa Al Ghul? He took like a day, drew it up, colored everything, brought it over to Katrina, and she flipped out. She's like, oh my God, did you make this? And I'm like, no, I had an artist who's here do it for me. And she's like, this is amazing. I need to meet the artist. So I walked over to Sal and I'm like, hey Sal, she wants to meet you. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, go meet Katrina Law. And he's like, okay, cool. And I gave him the custom art that he did for me, and she signed, and they took a picture together. They were super, super happy just to kind of hang out. So I thought that was kind of cool. But that's kind of something that, if advice to vendors, I would say, hey, if you're going to a certain convention, look at the comic list and look at the guest list. And instead of thinking that that's your full-on competition, find different products that you can bring into your table that people can come in first hour of the day, buy from you, and get on their line and get it signed. Because that first hour of the day, we all know the guests are going to arrive at least an hour late. It's obvious. They never show up right in time when the doors open. Most guests are at least conscientious of showing up 15 to 30 minutes within the opening of time. But I mean, I'm pretty sure Corey Feldman took his time getting to Monster Mania 2 weekends ago. From what I heard, he showed up at 2. He was supposed to start signing at 2, didn't show up until 3. So give these people something to buy to then take over to them when those guests show up, and don't think of it as a negative. Turn it into a positive.
Good points, my man. Good points. And by the way, for those of you who just joined us, this is Convention Chronicles, where we're talking about vendors and anything else that's related to the Comic-Con universe. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for us, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. If you're joining this live on the replay, thank you for being here. And the Renegade Bard, you're just firing away with these questions.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick stab at this one. So he says, do you recommend marketing your booth online ahead of a show? And are there platforms that you would recommend? Well, the Renegade Bard, before I turn things over to Professor, Jeff over here, knows a thing or two because he's done a thing or two. Let me tell you something. I would strongly recommend that, yes, market what your booth number is, what show you're going to be at way ahead of time. I would say do it a week in advance, if not 2 to 3 weeks in advance, because that gives people the chance to plan out ahead of time what they're going to be doing at the convention, and also gives them a chance to say, hey, this individual or these people booths are in a certain area of the convention, so I got to write down this booth number so I know where to go and I can find them and buy their books and get their autographs respectively, of course. And then the second part of your question is, are there platforms you would recommend? I mean there are billions. Listen, social media has evolved a lot in 23 years that we've seen it, or at least parts of it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I would say platforms we would recommend. Wow. I mean, Facebook, obviously, Instagram, TikTok. I know TikTok is blowing up like crazy right now. A lot of vendors are starting to switch over to TikTok. As a matter of fact, someone who's going to be on this show, or not this show particularly, but And I Quote in a couple weeks, known as And I Quote, a writer that I know of who I'm acquaintances with, she just started using TikTok for the first time to promote her books. And that's good for her. The more you market your stuff to different social media platforms, the more eyes you're going to get on whatever it is that you're doing your best to sell. So as far as platforms, I would recommend Facebook, definitely Instagram, and TikTok is really starting to pick up steam.
Yeah.
But I do know that there are other things you can do to promote your things ahead of time and platforms that we would recommend. So, Professor Jeff, how would you go about answering the Renegade Bard's questions?
So the first and foremost platform that I always hit is Facebook, obviously. There are so many different Facebook groups that are dedicated to anything related to Comic-Con. So just type in a search, type in autograph, and watch how many groups pop up. Type in comic, type in all that stuff, and you'll be amazed how many groups are there. I'm probably in about 50 plus different Facebook groups, and I post from time to time, and I say, hey, I'm going to this convention. This is what I'm doing. This is, let me know if I can help you. In your side of things, I would highly recommend a very special group called We Are Vendors and Entrepreneurs. It's also known as WAVE. If you're interested in getting into that group, let me know, because I just sent Ryan an invitation. I can send you an invitation. It will also help you answer a lot of the questions you've asked me. And the only reason why I know how to answer your questions, Mr. Bard, is because I'm in that group and I've gotten to know enough vendors, and I've listened and learned and paid attention and just observed everything that people do. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm a klutz. I've seen things break, sometimes within the vicinity of me, accidentally. Especially conventions, things break all the time, especially, fragile things. It's tough. It is really, really tough. I've watched, boxes of top loaders fall over and break all the top loaders. You're just moving your cart and something happens. It's crazy. The amount of stress that vendors go through to set up and break down. I've experienced it, and it is exhausting. It is exhausting. But what you gain from doing a weekend is vastly more than what you would do if you were just trying to sell online. You're interacting with people. You're learning likes and dislikes. You're learning what works, what doesn't. You're constantly evolving your booth and seeing what else is going to attract people over to you. Having a website, having a QR code, having social media links on your booth is extremely important, and be able to hand out, or at least have somebody just scan and go to your site and sign up. Creating your email blast is a big part of the marketing. Getting on social media, being active on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Yes, Twitter still is a thing. TikTok, I've heard, is great. Getting on Whatnot is also another way of getting yourself out there. I know a lot of vendors are jumping on Whatnot.
Yeah, tons of them.
There's just so many things. There's so many things to figure out when going into this process of being a vendor. It is a really, really tough thing. I've seen vendors come in hot and fizzle out. I've seen other vendors go from very small shows to very big shows. It's how you build yourself, and constantly making images, or constantly making appearances, constantly showing up every weekend and getting yourself out there. The more you do, the more you're going to get. So it's all trial and error. Sometimes you're going to have a great show, and sometimes that same show the next year isn't so good, or vice versa. It all depends. But if you're there and somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, I remember you from last year," that's a good thing. It might have been a slow show last year, but that person might have told 5-10 other people that they know, "Hey, you got to check out this booth at this show the next time they come around, because they've got really great stuff and you're going to like it." Or you've got stuff that people were looking for and they didn't know about you. So having a balance of social media and being on the road all the time, that's kind of the life right there.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So we're glad that you posed the question, the Renegade Bard. By the way, the Renegade Bard is also known as Brian D. Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Like
Nice
that
to
on
meet you, Brian.
Anti-Quote. So feel free to go back and watch the episode of Anti-Quote featuring Brian D. Anderson on the show. He was great. We had a really good conversation. And we wish you and your team over there at the Cove the best of luck with everything moving forward.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Whew. Jeff, this has been a wild ride. This has been a really, really educational episode of Convention Chronicles, discussing vendors and their importance when it comes to being in the Comic-Con circuit, or the Comic-Con universe for that matter. Jeff, this has been a lot of fun, kind sir. Yes.
I had one vendor I wanted to mention. I'm sorry, Ryan. Before we wrap things up, I had one more vendor I wanted to bring up on the same lines of RF Video / Signed by Superstars. They are called Heroes Hideout, for you wrestling fans out there. And, they're usually very within a good budget. And they always have somebody at their booth. Like New York Comic-Con, they normally have anywhere between 6 to 8 different legendary wrestlers at their booth signing. They have Mick Foley. They'll get Diamond Dallas Page, Jake the Snake Roberts, Ted DiBiase, IRS. Who else did they have? Rob Van Dam was there. So they'll get people from time to time. In fact, I think they did an in-store signing with Booker T, and one other one, Pandora's Box in New Jersey, is another good one to check out for you comic book Comic-Con culture people who and they get signings from time to time. I think they had one with Kurt Angle recently. So those are 2 places to check out, and I think Ryan will be able to put those links up for them as well. So there you go. Sorry to kind of catch you right before you wanted to wrap up, buddy, but I forgot I wanted to mention those 2.
Okay. So. Sorry. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. The Renegade Bard continues to fire away with a question for us. He says, the Cove staff all wear Cove t-shirts and branded tablecloths. How important is branding in general? It's extremely, extremely important. The more you have people wearing your shirt, the more people who are wearing your swag and sporting your, clothing line, or you got a business card that has a QR code on it, which, by the way, you want to talk about branding. If people want to know about you, QR codes are very important to have.
Yes.
So especially in today's modern world where the internet is everywhere and everyone apparently has access to what is known as a cell phone. Even the 2-year-olds have a cell phone. I don't get it. I don't know why. But I would
Yes.
say not tablecloths are good. Don't get me wrong, but QR codes are important. But Jeff, how important is branding in general to answer Brian's question?
Oh, I mean, come on. We love our t-shirts, right? We love wearing and supporting our different fandoms and our vendors and everybody else. I know Undiscovered Realm has custom t-shirts that they have from time to time. They're really cool, and it's Undiscovered Realm on the shirt, and then somebody comes up to you and say, "Oh, that's a really cool shirt. Where'd you get it?" I got it over at Undiscovered Realm. You got to check them out. So that's a great way to get your name out there. Brian, I think that's a great idea, and I mean, obviously, Ryan's a big fan of the support your vendors and wearing your t-shirts and stuff like that.
I should know. I own a few of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan's not the only one who does it. So, I would say, have a good run of quantity. Don't go overboard. You don't want to end up having a warehouse full of, business branded stuff, but have a nice little flow of product for people who are just become such a fan of you that they can get the word out by wearing a shirt or really just liking or sharing your pages. That's extremely important, is getting your name out there, making sure people are talking about you, making sure people know where to look for you the next show and which booth you're at. That's so important. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, definitely having a website or a QR code, things like that.
Yeah.
That just promote yourself as much as you can. And another thing is that marketing is so important, and just market yourself the best way you know how to, and always be open to learning new marketing skills and apps and services that are out there.
Yeah.
There's plenty of resources for you to check in on. If you have any questions for Jeff or myself, send us a DM. We'll be more than happy to address those with you accordingly. But with that being said, this has been a great episode of what is known as Convention Chronicles, and we hope you have enjoyed this episode, specifically talking about vendors. If you've missed any of our past episodes, they're all there in the Convention Chronicles playlist, so go ahead and check that out. If you missed anything, or if you missed parts of this episode, you can always go back and watch replays. They're always available for you to stream for free. You don't have to pay a dime for any of them. You can have them on in the background while you're cleaning the house. You can have us on while you're driving on the way to work or something like that. You can listen to us. You don't have to look at our ugly mugs if you don't want to. It's fine. But Jeff, for someone who may be interested in following your craziness on social media, where is a good place to find you?
Sure. So my personal pages, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook just by typing in @icon722. And then if you want to check out my business page, Iconic Autographs and Inscriptions. After New York Comic Con, I made the decision to move away from just being a consignment service to now becoming a send-in service where we can set up sit down sessions and take your things and really get put the attention we've been putting into is consignments, but now a little bit more detailed, and getting them signed at conventions and different appearances. So feel free to reach out. Rhode Island Comic Con's coming up. Their list is insane, and I will do whatever I can to get anybody and everybody that anybody is interested in getting. So, by the way, Mr. Peter Laird is making a very rare appearance at Rhode Island Comic Con. So if you need something signed by him, please get a hold of me, because that guy he's a unicorn. And if anybody knows, you can get Eastman. Laird is really, really hard to get. So I would highly recommend checking out Rhode Island Comic Con. And if you can't go, I'll help you.
Sounds like a plan, my man. Thank you for being here, Jeff. Do greatly appreciate it. My name is Ryan of Neuroculture. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and the craziness that ensues at RyanRPM5. Also, we're this close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Once we do, we're going to throw a great big live stream celebration that's going to have returning guests, some special surprise guests, and some special giveaways that you, our incredible fans / subscribers, are going to be eligible to win, such as these prints from the art of John Pinto, featuring characters from the hit series Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Look at that one. Speaking of Star Trek, aren't there going to be some Star Trek people at Rhode Island Comic-Con? Yeah, probably. Yeah, Rhode Island. Yeah, they got a few celebrities up there. Just a few. Also, you can win this print featuring your favorite characters from the Doctor Who universe. Look at all those doctors. Oh my. Hello, sweetie. Yeah. Also, you could be eligible to win this print featuring your favorite Sith Lord known as Darth Vader. Speaking of Star Wars, oh my gosh. So those are just a slither of some of the prints that we're going to be giving away to you, our incredible fans / subscribers. But you got to tell your friends about us so we reach 1,000 before the end of the year of 2023. So on and so on. You know how these things go. Also, speaking of Comic Cons and comic book legends, Mark Waid is going to be here with us on Thursday, November the 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Mark Waid, who gave us such incredible stories such as Kingdom Come, Star Wars Princess Leia, Daredevil, The Man Without Fear. I mean, how long is this guy's resume? It's pretty long. I mean, Jeff, you know who Mark Waid is, don't you? I hope you do, because if you don't know who Mark Waid is, then we got a problem. So also, Nerdy Cantina, talking all things Star Wars, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. New episodes are every Tuesday, so make sure you tune in for that. The Meaning of Fandom, new episodes of that are coming back very, very soon. The link for our next episode is going to be next week, so check out our social media for that. With that being said, like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell to be notified when our videos go up or go live. And remember, life is better when going to Comic Cons with friends or family and supporting the vendors, because indie supports indie. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
All right, I'm a little tired, a little wired, and I think I deserve a little appreciation.